All right, good morning, agents. This is Kevin Lauren. I'm the Director of Training and Marketing here at Alta Realty Group. And today we're going to go over some strategies for getting listings. It's always the key. We always want to control the market as much as possible by getting as many listings as possible. So this will be a great webinar to check out a few things that you may not be doing. So before we get into today's presentation, we are going to bring Bill Seitz, corporate broker for Alta, on the line. Good morning, Bill. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday to all. All right. So, Bill, you put out a piece yesterday. You want to kind of go over that first?
Yeah, just a reminder. So I had some questions from agents. Hey, I'm submitting an offer, representing a buyer. I've got the buyer's representation agreement signed. Do I need to submit anything else? And yes, you should be submitting your offer with the SPBB form. That's the seller payment concession for buyer brokers compensation form. It's just a one-page document. I was reviewing it again this morning just so I can accurately and articulately explain it to you. Very straightforward. It's really only filling out a couple little fields with name and brokers and address, and then the percentage of the purchase price that you're looking to get the seller to pay for. And then you would have both buyer and sellers sign that. And then it's very clear for everybody attempting to consummate the transaction, exactly what you're asking for. And you're not coming back down the road going, oh, but you said over the phone that you were guys going to pay my commission. Let's avoid that and just make sure that this document, this one-page document, is submitted with your offer to purchase. That way everything's clear, everything's above board, and you'll have a smoother transaction. Because I did actually hear of another agent that ended up the transaction canceled because of this reason, because they did not introduce this form properly and they assumed the seller would be paying something, and when that became a part of the transaction down the road, the seller was like, nope, not paying, and that was a cancellation. So just a reminder, just a one simple extra form will save you a lot of headache.
No, it's fantastic. And is it straightforward where they download that? All good?
In your car WinForms account. So and once again, it's SPBB, seller payment concession for buyer's broker compensation. That is the form. And if you have any questions, you can certainly call me, text me, whatever works for you. And lastly, Kevin, before we get to Debbie, because Debbie's got some great information that actually ties into concessions and loans and financing. But this is the irony of all ironies. And I'm going to try to verify this today because I don't trust everything I see on Instagram. But apparently, the MLSs are now going to allow a field for seller concessions. So they took away the percentage or the field for compensation or commissions, as we were calling it, and now they're going to allow for seller concessions. So basically, they've just changed the wording, and now they're going to allow it's actually mind-blowing that we've actually come full circle to this. And if this is, I'm, like I said, I believe it to be true. I went on the CRMLS site this morning. I didn't see anything to verify it, but I am going to verify it, and I will report back next Wednesday. But if this is true, this is just absolutely astonishing that we've the whole conundrum of this. What's happened? You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, Bill, this is ridiculous.
Right back to square one, right?
Back to where we started. Okie dokie.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's never a dull moment in our industry, and we just keep going forward with at least some sort of sense of humor, I guess.
Jeez, like catching a tiger by the tail.
Pretty much.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, as we learn to navigate all this stuff together, we're going to bring Debbie Saccone from Clearview Mortgage on the line. Debbie, I'm going to allow you to talk first, but then what do you got for us today? This totally ties into what is happening. So lay it on us.
Oh my gosh. I mean, let me just tell you, I have been really enjoying talking to various realtors about just this subject, and the reactions are from one end to the other when I chat. But I may call you to see, like, how is this going? And you know what? I, you know, is it fair that the buyer knows, that the buyer's agent knows how much the seller is willing to cover their commission before they go out of their way showing a property? I tend to totally agree with that. I mean, why not know what you're going into? And especially if you are working with a buyer that really likes you and they want you to get paid. But I will be calling you guys. I am so curious what is going on. I feel for you. And I've always said before this happened that my job is a lot easier, although it's got a little tougher in the lending industry because, they change guidelines without us really knowing, because there's thousands of guidelines and one little teeny thing that's tweaked. So nowadays, I mean, I go in for pre-approvals with our lenders. I do a lot of research because nothing is going to fall through escrow on my watch. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about was because, there was a curiosity about what commissions can be covered by the seller. And, there's always been with certain loans, uh, a maximum seller concession allowance. So, like, for example, FHA has always been 6%. The seller can pay up to 6% of the buyer's closing costs. VA is 4%. Seller can pay up to 4% of the buyer's closing costs. It could be used for origination points to buy the rate down, or just simply closing costs. For investment properties, conventional investment properties, it's 2% maximum seller concession towards closing costs. And there's other programs. Investment is kind of weird. Investment properties, there's some programs that allow a maximum of 3%. And like the DSCR deals, the non-QM deals, and I may have another segment next week to just go over all the non-QM options, because I'm telling you, I'm using them a lot these days for self-employed people. But for like a DSCR program, which basically is a stated, it's not even a stated income, it's a no income qualifying investment purchase loan. So the buyer does not qualify based on tax returns or anything, and they don't even check to see if they are employed or if they ever filed taxes. But anyway, those programs have a maximum 5% seller concession. And get this, if the buyer wanted to have the seller cover their agent's commission, that can be on top of the closing cost concession allowances. So for example, FHA has a maximum 6% seller concession. And actually, so does conventional financing, owner occupied, with 5% down payment or more. And if the buyer wanted the seller to cover, let's say, 2% of their agent's commission, that can be in addition to the 6%. So they could ask the seller to cover 6% of their closing costs and 2% for their agent. Is that going to happen? I don't know. Some areas, there's multiple offers with no concessions. So that might be a little tricky. And there's some areas where concessions are kind of normal and homes are sitting on the market for a while. Rather than that seller reducing the price, maybe you should mention in your listing that the seller is willing to cover something, closing cost concession, buyer's agent concession, instead of lowering the price. So anyway, if you have questions specifically about a type of transaction. You know, I've had people text and email me a little scenario. We need to, if you want to know what an interest rate is or any specific information, a credit score is great. The type of transaction, whether it's a refinance, a purchase, occupied investment, second home, what's the down payment, and or loan to value. Is it a single family home? Is it a condo? That might make a difference for FHA, but try to give as much information as possible in a text or email to me, and I can get you some answers, because I think you guys are going to need some answers out there, and I'll be calling you to just see how is it going, because I'm telling you, I am really curious. I have an inquiring mind, and I want to know, how is this affecting you? And I can let you know how it's affecting me too. So anyway, but think positively and just do your best out there, because it is starting to get busy. Rates are going down. It's crazy. 30-year fixed is approaching 6%. FHA is in the low fives. I mean, rates are fantastic right now. Go out and get the business and have fun while you're doing it. And I hope to hear from you, and I'll be calling you too.
Awesome. Love it, Debbie. Love your positive attitude. And so easy to get a hold of Debbie. Just go to debbiedoesloans.com, or here's Debbie's phone number right here. And her email address is debbie@cvmloans.com. So,
Evan, real quick, before we move on.
yes, sir.
Yeah, just so that the key takeaway in that, in Debbie's presentation, is that you can add compensation. I'm going to train Debbie to use the word compensation. I'm training myself. We don't use the word
Sorry.
But you know, the fact that you can negotiate that on top of within the concession guidelines is a really nice tool. And I think that Debbie pointed out, maybe instead of a price reduction, that you can negotiate a better entrance into the property with your client. That's a great suggestion, and I love that.
Yeah, no, great call, and bounce ideas off of Debbie always. All right, so along those same lines, well, we always want to get listings. You know, it's the only way to really control our destiny as realtors. And so let's talk about a few different ways to get listings. And so this was something that I came across in Inman. So Inman is an awesome resource. I know a lot of you guys subscribe, but this one came out a few weeks ago and it really caught my eye. So let me share my screen with you guys, my other screen. Okay, so strategies. So we're going to talk about 4 different strategies. And, you know, these things can be just literally, most of them used immediately to get business, or at least to, you know, get your way towards business. We always talk about, you need to have at least 50 to 70 conversations about real estate that will lead you to maybe one deal. So the more conversations we have with clients about real estate, the better off we're going to be. So this is expired listings with a twist. So, and the quotes and the strategies come from Jimmy Mackin, who's the CEO of Curator and the co-founder of Listing Leads. So according to their research, they say that in the last 12 months, expired listings has doubled. So that's amazing. That's a really important stat for us to, you know, take a look at and to, you know, keep in our minds. So here's a little quote from him. He says, "I think we got away from some of the blocking and tackling strategies like working expired listings, because in 2021, expired listings really weren't a big percentage of the market. In real estate, we're such creatures of habit, and when we stop doing something, chances are we're not going to immediately pick back up doing that activity immediately when the opportunity presents itself again." So very true. I think we can all, you know, I think we're all guilty of that. So, you know, one thing that Mackin says is that Even though expired listings are a small portion of the opportunity in the market, they can still be utilized to grow and create a very large, what he says is a blue ocean of opportunity. So I totally believe that. And so another quote from Jimmy is, but everyone needs to realize that right now that there's a right and a wrong way to market expired listings. And if done correctly, it can attract everything from average sales price homes to ultra luxury listings, right? And the reason the specific letter that we're going to talk about is so effective is that it utilizes a copywork framework called PAS. So PAS is pain, P is pain, A is agitate, and S is solution. So this particular template for this email and or letter, I think it's more effective as a letter, is utilize this PAS framework. So let's take a look. So the expired letter template. So now this is literally, in a, written letter sent via snail mail. This is what this is going to say. And what you're going to do, of course, is you're going to utilize the services of your title rep, hopefully DJ Bibb, and he will let you know of the, the addresses of these different possible people that might want to be listing, right? So especially these expireds. So now that your home didn't sell, you've had a wave of agents promising you they can get the deal done. You've heard this story before. You're not buying it. At this point, you're frustrated, you're disappointed, and likely pretty annoyed because your phone hasn't stopped ringing for the last 2 weeks. So if a home doesn't sell, it's for 3 reasons. It wasn't priced, or it was priced incorrectly, it didn't get enough exposure, or it wasn't presented properly. Now, if you believe the reason that your home didn't sell is number 1, you don't need another agent. You just need to lower the price. But if you believe the reason the home didn't sell is because of reason number 2 or reason number 3, this is where we can help. To sell for top dollar, there are 10 essential marketing tactics. I've reviewed your home on the MLS and you're missing 6 of them. It's pretty arbitrary, but hey, it is, this kind of language is effective and it actually works. So reading on, I'm confident that if we fix them, we could sell your home for, and obviously you've done your research and you're putting in the accurate amount that you think that home would sell for. So even if you're not planning on relisting your home, I'd love the opportunity to share with you my insight on what to do to ensure that you don't have to experience this again. My personal cell phone is blah, blah, blah. And I look forward to hearing from you. Put your name, contact information, QR codes, anything else you want to add that kind of, makes this yours. So a really effective letter template that utilizes this PAS framework, so we're basically, identifying what the pain the prospect has. And then obviously the more specific we can get, the better it is. And that's, lends itself to getting very specific information into this letter. I think that helps a lot. The A is for agitate, which involves identifying the secondary effects of the pain. So we kind of, agitate them a little bit. And this letter totally does that. And then the S is, of course, for solution. So this is where you're going to share your solution to the problem, and you're going to offer your services to alleviate that problem, right? So number 2 is the direct mail piece for 2024 and beyond. So this is just a cool strategy that he came up with, where he utilizes the Zillow Zestimate. So, the Zestimate, everybody knows that their clients are always, saying, Zillow says my home's worth this, all those kinds of things, right? So what Mackin's done is he's kind of turned it around. And so, a lot of times we're selling the property for more than the Zestimate, right? And so one thing that he found was effective is, putting the Zestimate compared to what you actually sold the home for. So you're showing that, hey, And this is what he calls his, Zillow versus agent strategy. So, we're basically, saying, hey, on average, I will sell the property for more, right? So, and then he's got an example, and this is an example of a postcard that I will put into the Canva account. And so it'll have our branding and so forth. But for an expired, you want to stay kind of away from too much branding. A little bit is good and that's fine, but you really want to keep these fairly generic and just offer information. So what this does is show that, you're based on this estimate, you sold the property for X amount, and that's in this case $74,000 difference. So pretty cool and very, very effective. And so again, this is just front and back. You would insert your own Zestimate, and what we would do, of course, is we would go to Zillow, look up that property. In Zillow, you can actually look up a Zestimate history. And so you go click on that Zestimate history of the home, click on, and it'll show something like this. It'll show, what the price was or what their Zestimate is, right? And then you can take a screenshot of that. So there's a lot of different screenshot programs that you can use, but you take a screenshot of that, and then we would upload that into Canva, into our template that we have there, or we will have there by the end of the day. And we'll be able to create a nice little postcard like this that we can send to those expireds. So, and then this will be the back, your information will be over here. And so that way we're going to drum up a little bit of business. So the third technique or strategy would be the seller activation email. So this is more like, all right, we have an email database with homeowners, and this is the kind of communication we're going to do with these. So the seller activation email begins with a technique known as qualify through copy. So what does that mean? That means if somebody opens the email, we send a specific subject line that tells me there's a level of interest at a minimum, right? And should be on my call list for that week. So even if and we can see if these prospects open the email within our Sierra interactive program. So here's the following example of the text that he uses, that Jimmy uses. So the subject line begins with, would you sell if, blank, right? And don't put anything, put just the little dots and the question mark. So in this example, he opens the message with a statistic from a study Bankrate did discussing the increased cost of maintaining a home. So I just read the annual cost of maintaining a home is 26% higher than 4 years ago. The next line used to turn the herd mentality, right? Meaning that people tend to be drawn towards or act based on what others do. We all know that. So this is why many sellers are cashing in on the equity they've gained recently. So then the last line is what Jimmy Mackin calls an irresistible hook. So what he says is, I know this is probably a crazy question, but if you got a great offer, would you consider selling? So, and this is kind of a funny little phrasing right here. This is super cerebral here. So I know this is probably a crazy question, and that is something that in sales, it's a technique that they use. It's like, if you can get somebody to, put a number out there, right? Is it crazy if I, said that I could get you into this brand new Maserati for $7,500? Right, so a month, right? So it poses that kind of provocative question that if you can get the person to answer it, it opens up another avenue for that salesperson to kind of weasel down, right? So I know this is probably a crazy question, but if you got a great offer, would you consider selling? So A little bit of psychology there. So, but that kind of email, if you just get these people to open the email, you're gonna, be able to do a follow-up call and just literally continue to open up that dialogue. And so that's, like we said, you're making more conversations about real estate. That's going to lead to something else. So we're always looking for these reasons to call these people. And so this very direct mail piece is a great reason to make a follow-up call, especially if you saw that they opened up the email. And then the fourth that we'll go over today is the circle dialing script. Now, this is a good one that actually converts. So circle dialing is, calling. So circle dialing can be done based on a few different things. So you can do circle dialing based on something that just recently happened, like and what we say is a marketable moment, right? A new listing is a marketable moment. An open house is a marketable moment. A recent sale is a marketing moment. So you want to make the neighbors aware of whatever that marketing moment was. And so circle dialing is, of course, calling the people in the immediate area and or door knocking as well. So this script can be also used on door knocking to a degree. So and so if you don't have a high budget, and most agents don't, and we should be running things as lean as possible. So this is a really good opportunity for those of you that are looking for ways to just drum up business and just to initiate those conversations, right? So here's the example. So the agent says, this is Kevin Lauren with Alta Realty Group. I know that you're not expecting my call, but the reason I'm calling is the home at blah, 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 341 Main Street near your home recently sold, or recently sold is probably the best reason here. Has anyone called to give you the details? Homeowner, no, hell no. Right? Agent, well, I've got a few moments before my next call. You don't have to say that, especially if that's not your style. But let me share a few details with you about the sale. And then, if the subject of their home doesn't come up naturally in that, that conversation, you can of course push the issue and say, before we hang up, I'd be a terrible agent if I didn't ask at least, is there a price where you might consider selling? Same kind of psychology as, would it be crazy if we offered, so, is there a price, right? Yeah. The market's 800,000. Yeah, I'd be willing to sell for 2 million. Okay. Well, now we're at least, having some kind of a dialogue, and we can, start to hone in, right? But all these little things are just provocative ways to initiate conversations. Really, that's the way you should think of these different techniques as a whole, is ways to open up those doors, ways to, talk to people that could be interested in buying and selling homes. And so we've been talking so much about this buyer representation and all these different things, buyer this, buyer that. Well, we all have to remember that the way to control the market and the way to control your business is to get the listings. So we always have to, go back and do these. A lot of these are tried and true. We're just taking a little different angle, or these are Jimmy Mackin's little different angles on tried and true things that we've been doing for years. So, Bill, any takeaways from these strategies? I know they're not new, but they're just slightly different takes, right?
They work.
Yeah, exactly.
Of it, and it's a numbers game. So
Yep.
if consistent and you're doing this and you have the time, or you're between deals, this is a great thing to get in the habit of. And like you said, it's pretty cost effective. It's not like a huge outlay of marketing. A lot of it's just your own time.
Yeah.
Your own willingness to pick up the phone and make 10 calls a day or whatever it is. I mean, that's not a big deal. You know what I mean? Everyone can do 10 calls a day if you're slow. or, or do some of these, I like some of those mailers as well. Those look really nice, and those will work. I mean, 100% it'll work. You will get activity, but if you don't start, you don't try, certainly nothing's going to happen, right?
Exactly. I'll leave you guys with a little anecdote. So, years ago, I had, I injured myself. I had to go to physical therapy, and at the time, I was running a marketing company. So I ended up befriending this owner of this, the place where I went to do the rehab, and I ended up doing their marketing. And then she ended up selling her business. And lo and behold, years later, she becomes a realtor. And I end up on this lady's, list, right? And this is just a really cool, way to think about how you do your marketing, because a lot of us come from other industries. So this lady came from a completely different industry from real estate, you know, and she put me on her list, and I still, to this day, I get her mailers, her postcards, and I get them consistently. I get her emails. I get them consistently. They're not obnoxious, but they're there. And I get her monthly newsletters, And so this lady, it's almost like, she's on these webinars and like taking our courses or something like that, because she is doing everything that we talk about. And if I didn't know, if I didn't own a real estate company, I would definitely use this lady, because she's consistent, she's professional, she's, you know, basically in my face, not in my face, in a bad way, but she's visible. She's not a secret agent. And I've never once had a conversation with this lady about real estate. Okay. But she's on my radar. Right. So this stuff absolutely works. Bill, can totally attest to it. It works 100%. And the consistency is the key. So you don't have to do all these different things that we talk about, but you better do something. And you better pick, 2, 3 strategies that you want to pound and you want to, be consistent with, and that will lead you to more business. That I guarantee. Bill, would you agree?
Yeah, and have fun with it. I mean, a lot of these people you don't know, so that can kind of make you, if you mess up or you have a bad conversation or it doesn't maybe flow the way you want it to, well, guess what? There's another one right behind it. And so as you perfect these conversations and you have fun with them and put out good energy, you will get the response that you're looking for. And that's just a fact of life, right?
100%, my friend.
A lot of it starts with the attitude, and from there, everything will materialize. So that being said, before we leave, Kevin, reminding everybody, if you do have listings, make sure you do not mention compensation in any of the agent remarks. That's what they're looking for. The policeman of the MLS. So, but I would encourage you to put language like, please submit all variables that buyer needs, or you can put language in there that doesn't specifically mention compensation, but can mention, you can say it without saying it, right? You don't have to put a dollar amount, you don't have to put a percentage, but you can basically say a seller will entertain anything that's presented, blah blah blah, and wink wink, nod nod. You get the conversation started with the buyer's agent. So anyways, that's just the final tip for the day, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the week.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Debbie, and thank you, agents, for joining us on Wednesdays. Really appreciate it. Get out there making a great week and a productive week, and we will see you guys next Wednesday on the webinar. Bye-bye.